What happens when America's sweetheart finally breaks on live television? What you're about to see is one of the most shocking moments in daytime TV history. When Kelly Clarkson, known for her warmth and bubbly charm, suddenly loses it on Creig Melvin during what was supposed to be a routine interview. This isn't your average celebrity outburst. This is raw, unfiltered emotion. Something no one saw coming. The morning started like any other inside the Today Show studios. Kelly arrived early, ready for what everyone assumed would be another light-hearted promotional segment for her new album. She'd done hundreds of these interviews before, always radiating authenticity and laughter. Craig Melvin, respected for his thoughtful interviewing style, had his questions prepared. Ones he believed would let fans peek into Kelly's creative process and personal journey. As the cameras rolled and the familiar theme music faded, Craig opened with a smile. "Kelly, it's always such a pleasure to have you. You look absolutely radiant today." Kelly's reply was polite, but not as effervescent as usual. "Thank you, Craig. It's good to be here." The first few minutes went smoothly. Questions about the album, the tour, the inspiration behind her songs. But for viewers paying attention, there was a tension beneath Kelly's polished answers, a tightness in her voice that suggested something was off. Then Craig shifted gears. "Now, Kelly, I have to ask about some of the headlines. Reports say your management team's been going through big changes. Some even hint at behind-the-scenes drama. Can you shed some light on what's really happening?" Kelly's demeanor shifted instantly. The smile faltered. For a flicker of a second, raw emotion crossed her face. Anger, frustration, maybe even betrayal. She drew a careful breath before answering. "Craig, I think there may be some confusion there. My team and I are doing great. I'd really prefer to focus on the music today." But Craig pressed forward. "I get that, but these reports are coming from reliable sources. They claim there've been heated arguments over creative control. That you've been difficult to work with. Is there any truth to that?" The word difficult landed like a blow. Anyone who knew Kelly's career understood why. She'd fought that label for decades, proving herself collaborative, professional, and resilient in an industry quick to diminish outspoken women. Her voice tightened. "Difficult. Craig, I think you should check your sources. I've been in this business over 20 years, and I've never had issues with people who respect me as an artist." Still, Craig didn't let go. "But Kelly, these aren't just gossip blogs. Industry insiders say you've been making unreasonable demands, that several team members quit because they couldn't work with you anymore." The studio fell silent. The hum of cameras was the only sound. Kelly stared at Craig, her jaw locked, fingers digging into the arms of her chair. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, controlled, but trembling with fury. "I need you to stop right there, Craig. I came here to talk about my music, not to defend myself against lies from unnamed sources." Craig tried to soften it. "Kelly, surely you understand. Our viewers are curious. Your brand has always been about being relatable, down to earth. When stories like this come out, people want answers. That was the breaking point." The mask shattered, and Kelly's bottled-up rage poured out. "You want answers? Fine. Those unnamed sources you're quoting. Those are the same people who tried to control every part of my career. The same people who told me I was too fat, too loud, too emotional, too much of everything they didn't want me to be. And now, because I finally have the courage to stand up for myself and my vision, suddenly I'm difficult. That's the story you want to tell?" Craig opened his mouth to interject. But by then, the damage was already done. But Kelly wasn't finished. "Do you know what it's like, Craig? To have every single decision second-guessed? To have people assume that because you're a woman with opinions, you must be impossible to work with? I've been nothing but professional my entire career. But, apparently, professionalism doesn't matter when someone wants to manufacture drama where none exists." The tension in the studio was electric. Crew members exchanged uneasy glances. Creig shifted in his chair, sweat beading under the bright lights. This was spiraling into territory no one had anticipated. He tried to steady himself, adopting that calm, patronizing tone hosts use when they sense things slipping away. Kelly, I think maybe you're overreacting here. These are just questions the audience wants answered. No one's attacking you personally. The word overreacting detonated like gasoline on open flame. Kelly's eyes blazed, her body leaning forward as her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Overreacting? Creig, let me tell you what overreacting would look like. Overreacting would be me walking off this set right now and never sitting down with this network again. What I'm doing right now is educating you on how damaging this kind of journalism is to women in this industry. But Creig, whether out of stubbornness or pressure from his earpiece, pushed again. I hear your frustration, Kelly, but these stories are already out there. Isn't it better to address them head-on than to get defensive? Kelly's laugh was sharp, bitter, almost incredulous. Defensive? You ambush me on live television with gossip and rumors. And when I stand up for myself, suddenly I'm defensive? Do you even hear yourself right now? Camera operators zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion across her face. This was the kind of unfiltered, combustible television producers secretly pray for. But no one in that studio had imagined it would come at this cost. Creig softened his tone, attempting sympathy. Look, Kelly, I can see this is upsetting you. That was never my intention. But as journalists, we have a responsibility to ask tough questions. That was the final straw. Kelly stood abruptly, her chair rolling back with a sharp scrape against the studio floor. A tough question, Creig, would be asking me about my songwriting, about how I've grown as an artist, about what inspires me. What you're doing, that's not journalism. That's repeating gossip to make me look bad on national television. Crew members froze, abandoning their tasks to watch the implosion unfold. The director waved frantically at Creig through his earpiece, but it was far too late to reel things back. Creig raised his hand slightly, trying to calm her. Kelly, please, sit down. Let's just try to have a productive conversation. Her laugh cut through the air, cold and humorless. Productive? Fine, let's be productive. Let me tell you exactly what your so-called sources left out of their little smear campaign. Yes, I made changes to my team. Yes, I've had disagreements. Do you know why? Because for the first time in my career, I have the power to stand up for myself. Because I'm tired of being told my ideas aren't good enough, that my instincts are wrong, that I should just smile and do whatever the men in suits tell me to do. And the second I refuse to play along, suddenly I'm difficult. Creig squirmed, his polished composure unraveling. The interview had spun completely out of his control. Kelly, I think you're misunderstanding the intent here. Her eyes locked on him, unflinching. No, Creig, I understand perfectly. You lured me here under the pretense of talking about my music, then blindsided me with tabloid garbage. You wanted to push me until I cracked, so you'd have a viral soundbite. Well, congratulations. You got it. The accusation hung in the air, thick and damning. Creig's face flushed crimson as he realized she had ripped the curtain back for everyone watching. This wasn't journalism. This was spectacle. He stammered, "That's not fair, Kelly. We genuinely wanted to give you a platform to tell your side of the story." Her voice rose, trembling with anger and exhaustion. "My side of the story? Here it is. I've worked my butt off for over 20 years in this business. I've sold millions of records, won countless awards, and built my career on talent and grit. I've treated people with kindness and respect, even when they didn't deserve it. And yet none of that matters the second you need ratings for your show. None of that matters when you want to reduce me to a headline." She paused, her chest heaving, her voice thick with emotion. "But here's what you don't get, Creig. This time, I'm not staying quiet. Not for you. Not for them. Not for anyone. Apparently, it's more entertaining to paint me as some kind of diva than to actually celebrate what I've accomplished," Kelly said, her voice steady, controlled, but laced with steel. Creig scrambled, clinging to whatever authority he thought he still had. "Kelly, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Why don't we just start over, focus on the album?" Kelly shook her head, reaching down to grab her purse. Then she looked straight into the lens, bypassing him entirely. "Start over? No, Craig, I'm not starting over. I'm finishing this. On my terms." Her voice wasn't angry now. It was calm, deliberate, and devastating. To everyone watching at home, remember this moment. Remember what it looks like when a woman who has worked her entire life to build something meaningful is reduced to gossip because the truth isn't interesting enough. Remember who benefits from tearing her down. Craig's face tightened, panic flickering in his eyes as his producers barked in his earpiece. The director's frantic hand signals did nothing to stop the storm already in motion. Kelly went on, her words cutting through the silence. "I came here today to talk about music, to share something joyful. Instead, I walked into an ambush. I was baited with lies, then told I was defensive, told I was overreacting. Does that sound familiar to anyone watching? Because it should. That's the playbook, and I'm done playing along." She turned her glare back to Craig, who seemed to shrink beneath it. "You want to know what's really difficult, Craig? Difficult is sitting here pretending you respect me while you tear at my reputation for ratings. Difficult is smiling politely while you repeat cowardly, anonymous accusations as if they're fact. That's difficult." Craig's voice cracked as he tried to steady himself. "Kelly, please, let's just take a breath." Her laugh was sharp, humorless. "Take a breath? I've been taking breaths for 20 years, while people like you minimized my accomplishments and spun whatever narrative sold better. I've smiled, I've swallowed it, I've played along. Not anymore. I'm done taking breaths. I'm done being polite. And I am done pretending this is okay." The studio was frozen. Crew members had stopped moving, transfixed by the fire burning in front of them. This wasn't a meltdown. It was a reckoning. Craig tried again, his words faltering. "Kelly, maybe we should wrap this up." Kelly's eyes didn't leave him. "Oh, we're wrapping this up. But not because you said so. We're wrapping it up because I have more self-respect than to sit here 1 second longer and let you keep running this charade." She stood, this time not in fury but in power, her purse slung confidently over her shoulder. "You want the real story? Here it is. A woman refused to let herself be torn down on your stage. A woman refused to play along with your little stunt. That's the story." Craig's composure had evaporated. Sweat streaked his forehead as he stammered. "Kelly, I never intended to make you look bad. These questions came from legitimate concerns." Kelly cut him off with a laugh that was bitter and final. "Legitimate concerns? From who? Anonymous sources who are too cowardly to sign their names? Your producers who thought it would be fun to watch me squirm on live television? Let's call this what it is. A setup. You wanted drama. Well, congratulations. You got it." Craig opened his mouth, but the words collapsed before they reached his lips. The truth of her accusation hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Everyone in the room knew it. Kelly took a step toward the edge of the set, pausing only long enough to deliver her final blow. "Here's a news flash, Craig. I don't need your show. I don't need your platform. And I sure as hell don't need your permission to be successful." The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second as she walked off set, leaving Craig exposed, humiliated, and drowning in silence. "And you know what the worst part is?" Kelly pressed on, her voice trembling now. Not from weakness, but from the sheer weight of what she was carrying. "I actually liked you, Craig. I thought you were different. I thought you cared about truth, about real conversations, not just headlines and clickbait controversy." The words landed harder than any accusation. Craig's face fell, as if someone had knocked the wind out of him. "Kelly, Save it!" She cut him off coldly, her composure returning with an edge sharper than before. "I'm done listening to excuses. I'm done being polite. And I am definitely done with this interview." She rose, every step toward the studio exit echoing with the authority of finality. The click of her heels cracked through the tense silence like gunshots in a church. each one louder than the last. Creig reached out in desperation. "Kelly, please, don't leave like this. Let's finish the conversation." She stopped just shy of the exit, turning back with a look that froze the air. Her voice was steady, stripped of all anger but burning with conviction. "The conversation is finished, Creig, and so is my relationship with this network. Congratulations! You got your dramatic television. I hope it was worth it." And with that she walked off, shoulders squared, purse in hand. Creig sat stranded at the desk, his microphone suddenly useless, the silence around him heavier than any words. The cameras lingered, unwilling to cut away, catching every second of his stunned expression and the glaring emptiness of the chair Kelly had occupied only moments before. What do you think really pushed Kelly to her breaking point? Was it justified or did she go too far? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this.